I did a portrait of Obama when he first got elected.
Oh yes.
I was so inspired back then, but I was also critical of him, but I was fine.
Yeah.
It's huge, and I still look at it and go, who the fuck did that?
It's funny stuff. Amazing.
It's so complicated. It's mixing painting with stencil, with this. It's got layer upon layer of meaning and technique, and I went, and it's big, and the physicality of doing that, going, could I do that now? Oh no, I didn't start.
And now we've got it on camera, Steve.
I know, that's
perfect.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
That's perfect. No, because it's organic and you're sitting here and we're talking and we're eating, and that's how you talk about it in the studio, right?
Yeah.
When you're in another studio with friends, or you're sitting out, breathe good shit, breathe it up.
I sit there and I go, I love it. And I could have it over my bed, and I don't feel cringy. I just go.
So
like,
you said a picture of Obama.
Yeah, when he first became president, because there was such optimism then.
Yeah, right. And then at the end.
Okay, I've got a question. Will you do the same with Trump?
Have you put Trump in any of your work?
No.
Welcome back, everyone. It's great to have you with us Beyond Survival, the place where we get to explore what it looks like and feels like and sounds like to go beyond survival. Today we have a very special guest, Carl Gopalkrishnan. Welcome, Carl.
Thanks
So
for having me.
Table.
Welcome to our table.
Thank you. Beautiful table too.
Yes.
So I'm your host, Geraldine, and my co-host, Kelli, our super host, Gizmo, and we have our producer, Stephanie Davis, in the background. So welcome, thank you for coming on board, and it really is a wonderful thing to have you at our table today. So, and what a spread it is today.
Yeah.
So it's been wonderful. I invited Carl, and knowing that Carl is an amazing baker, he has brought an incredible, tier upon tier of beautiful food.
Okay, well you got to tell us what's on here, Carl.
I brought the sweet tooth stuff. And
Awesome.
then you told me you were gluten free, so that and I actually made a Sicilian apple cake at the top.
Which is
that
just
was
stunning.
Yeah, it's a little mini one, but it's just, I think that's what we need.
Yeah.
And then I did these mini for you, the gluten free, the Basque
Thank you.
cheesecake.
Mm-hmm.
And
Happy
that's
days.
quite nice. That's quite low on the sugar, I mixed it a little bit with monk fruit. And my version of Swedish bullar, which is, I grew up in Sweden, so it's sort of normally it's a cardamom, cinnamon sort of thing, but a lot of people in my family don't necessarily, they've got issues with the crushed cardamom. So I just put the cardamom powder together with the cinnamon, and I put a lot of it in. So so that's just
Well, thank you for doing that.
that's okay. Thank you for having me over.
And I said, as soon as Carl arrived, the first thing he said, we're going to be best of friends because you bake and you're an artist. And that's all I need.
I think a lot of artists bake. Yeah.
Do you?
Well, they're always struggling with money, aren't they? So they have a lot of time in between
I hadn't
gigs.
thought about that actually.
Yeah, so they're at home.
That's
so,
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
that's
There's
true.
many artists who don't bake, but I think it's also a creative.
it is a creative area. It is creative.
If they don't bake, they cook of some kind.
Yeah.
Or their garden, or their
Oh, they garden.
Yeah.
Well, they do some.
And well, thank you for inviting me. It's really
Oh
nice
my
to
God,
be
it's
here.
so good to
I
have
love
you
I
here.
love your place, your house.
Thank you.
Or should I say studio? But it's your house.
So you and I met.
We go back a bit.
Yeah, we
so
went-
we've seen quite a bit of the Perth history, especially Northbridge history.
yeah.
We go back even before
The
they built-
changes.
before they built that tax department there. So it was really different.
Yeah.
It was a different time, and there was a community, and we all lived there, and it was all art.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Kel, would you like to talk about some of the latest developments before we
Yes.
go too far into it? And
So
eat a
good
little more
news.
chicken?
Good
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
I've been keeping you all up to date with what's been happening with the Epstein file. It's close to my heart, as you all know. The F47 administration have done everything they can to not have the Epstein files released. Well, just yesterday, Congress 427 agreed, including all the Republicans, and then it went across to the Senate floor today, or today our time, yesterday their time, and it was unanimous in the Senate. So what did Donald Trump do today? closes the White House down, so no media can come in. Release the files. The victims have already said time and time again, we don't care who's on the list, we want it released. So we know that he's in the files. He was friends with Epstein for 10 years, 10, 15 years. And we know that he's a predator and has been charged for that himself. Jean Carroll, she won her court case. She was the only one that won her court case. Everybody else, he's very good at manipulating the legal system. But so it's good news for everybody. I don't know whether you.
But your show kind of looks at a lot of different issues, doesn't it? And it sort of brings the local into the international, and you sort of try and make a connection. I think you probably also try and make local people care about it.
Yeah,
because it's such a nice
but also we had Virginia Dufresne
living here,
so it's close to my heart. Anybody who suffers any kind of abuse, I'm right there to support whatever it is that you need and want to get well. And that's what it's about. At the end of the day, the transparency is purely about so that the victims can really do their business with it and work their way through trauma. I think it's appropriate that it comes out in the F47 administration because of his involvement with it all. So, yeah, you want to be a government of transparency? Here's your transparency. So in that way, I'm very happy that finally I can almost hear the Epstein survivors breathing. And for those who didn't make it, like Virginia, we can say, we got you covered.
Well,
I'm just really happy for her.
Yeah. I think we
coming
are.
out,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. And it's kitchen table stuff.
It's
like
kitchen
we're talking,
table
it's
talk.
like we're not psychologists.
We're
Artists who comment on life. That's our job, isn't it? We're storytellers. As artists, we're storytellers. So, and sometimes stories are real. You know, they're not always.
And that, which begs the question: why do you feel the need to do that, and why aren't people able to, number one, do what you do and get those kind of stories out and you know, what's our mediascape like, and what's the level of conversation we have in this country? I would say it's pretty low.
Yeah,
just to begin to get our values straight there.
100%. I know for me, I probably didn't process it all of that abuse stuff until I went to art school. And that's just there. Like, I mean, it's not that I hadn't talked about it by then or anything, but there's something about carrying trauma that attracts trauma. And I think art is a really beautiful way to speak into that. And also then you're sharing it with other people who might connect with it. That's my jam. If I can put lipsticks melting into condoms on a wall and call it Rouge au Schlong, and you feel something from that, then my job is done. If you can connect from your own story, whatever that might be. So just in response to that, I think that's the purpose of artists, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Of course it is.
I would say so, but I don't necessarily think everybody sees that. I think in Australia, I think we more than we used to, we conceptualise the concept of art and as an artist as a fairly institutional thing before people even ask those basic questions of what it does to you and what it feels like and what could you be and how did they do it for hundreds of years. I don't think people even ask that. I think it's become quite grant-funded, institutionalised, and even the way we report on what art is and who is an artist and who isn't an artist, right? So I think in Australia it's fairly, our very idea of what an artist is has become quite cleaned up.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's quite messy parts of what is being an artist and difficult. And I don't think in Australia we're very good at looking at that. Like, we're quite judgmental. Like, it's become careerised, you know.
Yeah, I don't think we're good at looking after our artists at all.
And as an audience, audiences are trained to go, oh, should I accept this person as an artist? Like, did the ABC, SBS tell me they are? Or did the Australian tell me they are?
Yeah.
Or do they appear on the cover in the weekend version of the magazine? Oh, I guess they're an artist then because everyone told me that they're an artist. So I don't think... So when you're talking about that, well, does our audience even know what those feelings are about and those thoughts are about?
Yeah.
And I don't think that they do because we don't expose it and we don't talk about it enough. Which comes down to how you define yourself as an artist. And I think it's more important than ever for you to take ownership of how you decide to not to depend on that.
Yeah.
And I suppose I've come to that because I'm a non-funded. I don't do the government funding thing, and I never have with my art. So I've had to have various day jobs and struggle with that. The having to perform in my job, because if I don't perform in my job, I'm not going to get paid. And sometimes, quite often, it's got nothing to do with my art. Well, I found a way to make it part of my art. I found a way to take the lessons and the knowledge and the interactions with society and people and politics and whatever, which doesn't allow for art in my day job, but I've found a way to process it into my art, and I think that's where I'm a bit different in that. I think a lot of people come into an issue as an artist, but they don't live in it. It's not a 24-hour thing.
How do you find Perth? Because I know that you're saying you feel like you're a bit of an expat, but how do you find Perth as in relationship to art and artists?
I can only talk for myself. That
well, you did describe yourself as an expat.
Yeah. I think the other there is this idea of how we conceptualize artists. I think we conceptualize them as young and emerging, or very established. Okay, so you're either
a whole gamut in between.
Well, a couple of decades there in between, and there's a lot of life, and then. So if you actually manage to live long enough and actually are one of the few that gets recognised, they will talk about everything you've done in between. Well, why don't we recognise that now? So we have grants and things, and young and emerging, and our audiences at festivals and everything, whether it's fringe festivals or it'll be, young and emerging, or extremely established and internationally, and they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And I think there's a massive amounts of talent and people in between doing that. And while I agree that yes, it's a bit of a cliche to say you start off and then you're going to achieve your greatest work but when you're like 60, 70, 80. Well, maybe you won't. Maybe you achieved it when you're 35 or 48.
There's no given, though.
There is no given, exactly. No. So why don't we really put
Should be a playbook, right?
Yeah.
And there is loads of playbooks that other people create for us.
Exactly. And I would be mid-career. They're called mid-career. But I'm nearly 40 years mid-career. And there is no, for people like me, mid-career artists don't necessarily fit the mould. It's kind of, really, in Australia, you're either in the grant system, and we all know how that plays. And grants are geared towards issues. So I think as artists, we're kind of used as an extension of government messaging rather than art. They're not going to give you money ever to say, go and explore what you feel you need to. Yeah. Which is getting back to the first question you start with, what is an artist? And we don't get funded for that. So from a very early age, the high school version of the big prize, and so they get locked in, recruited then. It's a bit like radicalisation, really. Get them early, then train them. Or you have to go to university, you need a degree, you need this, why, to be an artist. You need it, well, you don't. I don't have a degree in fine art. A degree in history, sociology, but then the galleries that link Geraldine and I in the 90s, early 90s, it's like that's kind of was my education. I mean, I did do graphic design in the 80s before they really and it was half fine art, whatever, but it wasn't really the painting, more of a painter. And then when I worked in an art gallery, I kind of met so many artists in 1990, 91, 92. And I think that's where I continued my education.
Were you here in Perth at that time?
In Perth, in Northbridge.
So who was around, just out of curiosity, at that time in the way of painters?
We met at the Bridge
Gallery. There was a real scene around there. It's a bit I think, we've never really acknowledged the importance of Bridge Gallery.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like in Sydney, they talk about the Yellow House. Brett Whiteley, and like we had this Bridge Gallery, and it was a mecca. Even the
tell me about the Bridge Gallery.
Well, Gary Tate, the guy who started that, he was a framer. He opened the gallery.
This is a mutual friend.
Yeah, the mutual friend. I'm still friends with Gary.
My husband now is Clement. Okay. And we have the signage for the Bridge Gallery in our shed.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. Fantastic.
In the studio.
Riveted.
Do you have the door?
Where one day we're going to have a podcast.
I designed the door.
Yeah,
no, I did the wrought iron thing. Yeah, which you designed. I know. And then they're here today, gone tomorrow.
So beautiful.
And is this the you got it in the so-called shed where we're going to have a podcast one day?
One day we'll have.
But look, I think it's a combination of
because
Gary.
You can just roll into the shed.
Yeah.
There's no steps.
Good. We talked about the community was so different. The combination of the chemistry, the community. It wasn't separated by the tax building, so it was one community. It wasn't split. Rents were affordable. People lived there. We all met at Cafe Sport. Yeah. and walked around in our pajamas at term in the morning. It was just kind of this very bohemian. And then the British Gallery became a magnet for that. And it was a time where it was very vibrant.
Genuinely vibrant.
Genuinely vibrant. So people wouldn't...
Not gentrified vibrant.
Yeah.
Genuinely vibrant.
Today in Perth, people just get up and, they act crazy. Like, why? Because there's a festival of you're allowed to act crazy today? Whereas we didn't give a shit.
True,
we did not give a shit. So we would just get up and do what the hell we wanted to. And it was a couple of years after the America's Cup. So the world we were kind of...
To life.
Yeah.
I was in advertising at that time. In my 20s, before I went to art school, I was in advertising.
I flunked advertising. I did the design thing, and then this is going back to a different era.
But we used to work with so many graphic artists.
I know, exactly.
I talk about the days of...
Yeah, it was...
I was in it when it was the days of colour sets and bright lights.
I remember.
Yeah. So I worked with... And I was in Print Media magazine. I worked for
Oh, right. Yeah. Forgive them.
Yeah, thank you.
I forgive you.
You don't know what you know until you don't know what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
But through that work, I met a lot of work on a daily basis with graphic artists because I was the one that would come up with the idea and sell the contract.
Exactly.
And then I would go into the art room and I was just to love what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I thought, that's not a reality for me.
Yeah.
But I loved liaising with them and saying, okay, I need you to put a storyboard together for this, and I'm trying to...
Back then, people who were in graphic design were half graphic, half fine arty. It was just all kind of, it was very messy. And,
very hard to
but it was also quite snobby. Like if you had a design background, then it was you can't be fine arty.
It was very much...
It was you were in class. It was like the Titanic. You were in third class. Yeah. Now, of course, it's a little bit everywhere. It was just a different time. So, but... was there an original question that I started off going off track? We're talking about, what's it like as an artist in Perth? So, I mean, I think I'm a bit older, I'm mid-career, and people don't see me. So I'm not seen. You know what I mean? Like you just exactly. And then I think you started the thing as well.
We've lived a whole life of doing art.
Yeah.
And maybe we're seen in a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
How are we seeing ourselves?
Well, that too.
As well. And
kind of I think that's automatic as an artist.
Yeah.
But I do think on the greater community thing, you probably get seen more than you realised. That's been my experience anyway. People will come up to me years later and go, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, okay. Where did you see that? And think so I think we can live in our own world and we can be a bit insular in Perth. Yeah. We can be a little bit. But there was that, you're talking about the 90s in the Perth, and there was that time in Perth, there was a lot of incestuous stuff around the money stuff and giving grants to each other and stuff like that. I think that's kind of died now, but at that time...
that's a good sign. I hope it has, because it was
like
ridiculous.
And companies or non-profits like that are deliberately raising the money themselves to get away from that, it becoming incestuous.
You can see that there is a bit more independent thinking happening here. Yeah. I think that's tied to the fact that it's through the internet it's become more globalised, and I think a lot of young people don't necessarily see themselves as local anymore. So we punctuated the I'm now local, I'm fed up with this, I'm now going to go overseas. So we punctuated and articulated in a particular way, whereas they naturally grew up with this idea of I can go anywhere, I can be anything, I can do it through my phone, I can contact, and so younger people I think are more open, but you can't, when I say they don't see you, you have to be online to be seen. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Well,
so we're not so embodied.
For me, because I know, Carl, you and I have not quite lost contact, but there's times when you were living in Melbourne, and I stayed in Perth. Anyway, so there was times when I wasn't in contact with you, but you have always done an amazing job of keeping your body of work online. In fact, I have to relay a little memory of Carl.
Coffee?
Yes,
Carl was the first person I visited that was watching TV on his computer.
Oh,
you were.
I don't remember.
Do tell.
Well, it was dropped in when you were living on Beaufort Street.
Oh yes, Beaufort Street.
Tell us that story. There's
not much to tell.
I remember Beaufort Street.
No, that's very interesting.
He doesn't have a television. He's got a computer and he's watching. So you always seem very cosmopolitan to me. as someone who's watching TV on a computer.
I think that's when I started to get out of the country through. I instantly saw the internet as, oh great, I don't have to jump on a plane to do this.
Yeah.
I don't need $1 million to do this. And that was like I had done my, I had a break from 92, 93. And then I came back in 2004 going, I think I want to do something. And it's post 9/11. And we're all processing the whole war on terror and that. Australia's going through and all that Bill Henson stuff where they started to target artists. And and I think we started to become really seen as an enemy of the state.
So just a tiny bit to Bill Henson, who was taking photography and really was exploring that sort of pre-pubescent into pubescent.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
The absolutely exquisite photos. But for some reason, the Australian audience, obviously some segment, I had seen those photos.
They were associating it with pedophilia, which was
like so outrageous, and I know
it was like saying,
and I remember at the same time,
Statue of David is pornography. It's not.
And
I hope our brains have expanded a little bit since then. I do think it has a little bit with this next generation.
And I know another artist a little bit after, Connie Petrillo. She was targeted by law enforcement. It really was.
We're talking AUKUS. We're talking Australian Federal Police raids on galleries.
No, and it was only a little bit later. But remember Piss Christ? That all happened as well. So we do have a long history.
We do, and I don't think we ever really recovered from that. I think we set a very low bar in Australia for what is creative thinking on the edge and what is thinking freely. So that just brought the bar right down. And I think when we celebrate, when SBS, ABC, and all these people celebrate something that's really different, it's like 10% up from a completely whacked out idea, which should be up to there. And that's where Australians start to become really mediocre in their thinking, and they're so risk averse, and then artists become risk averse because they're meeting the audience expectation.
Hence why we left.
Which is why I do stuff overseas and editorially.
And we got lucky. We met the most amazing group of artists from all over the world who were highly kind of conceptual.
And they're generous too.
Extraordinary.
Extraordinary generous.
I would call it community mind at the international level.
At the international level. Yeah.
Which
you don't have to keep explaining yourself. And
we're trying to bring it here, Carl. Would you want to help us?
I get so tired of being asked about my ethnicity. I mean, absolutely. And when I'm in Australia, and I'm not ashamed of, I've got an Indian father, Chinese mother. I was born in England, grew up in Sweden here, about everywhere, right? And it is a part. It is. It's just a normal, natural part. But in Australia, they won't let you go past that. They just want you to be pigeonhole you. And what's more, they can't look past it to look at the content of your idea. And I might be looking into quantum physics or geopolitics or American exceptionalism and taking or a queer lens and really kind of breaking out of normal thinking. And they don't want to look at that. They just keep on going on about, well, you're just a multicultural artist, bring out the curry puff. And whereas I've had to go to England or London, people pick up on the ideas. Oh yeah, I get it. I get it in the first 5 seconds. I don't have to keep pitching until I don't have a voice left. So I think that's just it. It's not that you hate Australia or anything. I'm too tired for this. I'm too tired. I just want to go somewhere where I don't have to spend 3 days explaining a basic concept. I can do it in 3 minutes and they get it. It's either yes or a no. You were talking about a little bit earlier about online. Do you think that has then given a little bit of independence back to the artists because empowered them in the sense, well, it did for us in the sense that we just said, okay, we'll just do our own thing and we'll find our own sponsorship, which we did. And I think we've only ever had one grant. The rest, and then after that, I said, "This is too hard. You've got to beg for such little money and such hard work." And not only that, unless you want to paint about, I don't know, cervical cancer or adoptee thingy or family violence or drug addiction or whatever they decide they're going to give money on because they don't want to do proper policy and they don't want to pay for a community education unit. Oh, we'll just do a competition with a prize to make us do the work for friggin' government. Get off my face. Get off my face. So that's why I don't do it. No, I'm with you 100%. And I think now... Sorry, is that too much? No, not at all. Not at all. It's spot on. Yeah. Because it's been our experience as well. And hence, as I said, while we left, and then when we came back, we felt the temperature change. And we thought, okay,
a space that we can maybe, and then they have that big opportunity in 24 for the Biennale. It doesn't get bigger
Great.
There's Biennale, and everyone was excited about it, but guess what? Nobody gave us money.
No, that's it.
Right? And so we didn't go. We missed that opportunity, and I'm like, guys, wake up. We're going to continue to lose all our great artists because they will go to the eastern states and they will go overseas because they can't stay here. And actually, I think in the last few years, literally in the last 3 years, it's almost done a reverse here in Perth. I thought it was improving and we could see the temperature changing here. But then 3 years ago, when they made, I think the writing was on the wall when they made the Department of Culture and Arts as part of the Department of Sports and Leisure. Really, that was the writing on the wall, right? So, and then just recently last year...
Creative industries, right? So when you use the term creative industry, that's like, well, it's what it is.
What the hell's it doing in sports and leisure?
It's got to be an employment maker. It's got to contribute to the economy, and that's all great. But if you're asking the question, what is an artist and what do we really bring outside of, it's saying unless we bring into the economy and you can measure it with KPIs or this way or that way, or decide to go social capital, and that's pretty hard to measure. Australian War Memorial and culture. As an artist, I can see things differently. And I can see that the Australian War Memorial has a diversity problem. It doesn't include civilians. And when you don't include civilians, not only do you look at the population connected to the Indo-Pacific, which were in this World War II. Countries were racially segregated. And I think gender has a lot to do with the way foreign policies are going south everywhere. What do artists have to bring? This is what artists have to bring, and that's what I've been able to do overseas. In Australia, the War Memorial doesn't want to know about me, the ADSF doesn't want to know about me, and the government doesn't want to know. When an artist says, I'm talking about foreign policy, I'm talking about military doctrine and how you define that. Whereas if you go overseas, they're more open.
That's exciting, that's fantastic.
Because we give you grants with really clear definition of what an artist is allowed to look at. And it's not defence, and it's not military memory making. And it's not the fact that we're stuck between America and China in the Indo-Pacific. Because if they let people like us in, not just artists, but people who are not looking like this cliched version of what Australian is, then they'll go, there's really good reasons to not go to war. Everyone is doing this bad economic argument, which is completely true. I agree with it all. We didn't vote for it. It was secretive. It went ahead. On top of that, it's going to be nearly $400 billion, and we need it elsewhere. We need it for jobs. We need it for hospitals. And then it kind of flips a little bit to what's it like being an artist in Perth. So many artists in Perth are so quiet and silent. The whole city is silent about this issue, right? And I would have expected artists... Well, you are fine, you're not. I mean, you're great. But this is about people. This is about civilians. This is not necessarily masculine violence fantasies. There's a lot of trauma that we're not acknowledging in foreign policy, in our military build-up. And I don't think people in Australia really understand that what's happened in Kiev, that can happen in Sydney and Melbourne. Well, and one of the problems about saying that they're all crazy and going with the extreme left, because I'm not in the extreme left at all. I'm trying to say that there's a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of different people. There are crazies. There's people in the weapons industry who want to make a lot of money. And there's the right-wing stuff, having people, we're not Australian anymore.
And you've been right at that interface, haven't you?
Yeah, very much at the connection.
We're talking about creating safe places for those conversations. To actually take place. And you were talking about some processes that you've worked in as far as how do you create these safe places, safe spaces for people to express themselves for a start, but also to look at how we actually can, how do we in the future, how does it look, how do we work together?
I think what you and Kelli are doing is part of it. Do you understand
Stepping
what you're doing?
The behind the scenes, and now we're hopefully talking to mainstream.
Now obviously I know Geraldine, I think she's great, and we go back. That's one reason I've seen your podcast. I go, we kind of value the line. Why else am I here? What you're doing is a template. Okay? So you have a policy, and then you've got to enact that. You've got to educate, and then you've got to give people policies and procedures. Okay, so this is one tool. And if you taught other people to do that from many different points of view, then you have a diverse number of safe spaces, because we're all going to come on, it's going to be a little bit bubbly, but the problem is when they say everyone's in a bubble, they're kind of talking about kind of big bubbles. And what I'm saying, how do you make safe spaces? You create little bubbles.
Okay.
And then maybe if there were a couple of more podcasts like this, what's stopping you guys having one big podcast together? Where you bring those different points of view. Okay,
magical.
You've got the we support AUKUS and bringing military families from America, and we love them. They want a podcast every month.
Yeah.
Okay, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Don't agree with you, but you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And then other people, and so you get a bit of greys in the spectrum instead of black and white. It's very polarizing. What we need is more people like you at different points, and what we need is we need to not shut them down.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Have the conversation.
But like everyone and everything in this country, you got to. And when I talk to communities, ethnic, religious, everything, I said it's great. You can be angry, you can be this. You can't be illegal. Do you understand? You need to follow the laws of the land. This is the law of the land, so you need to spell it out to people. We want diversity, we want different point of view, but this is what polarization looks like. Don't go over the top. So what we need to create lots of little differences, like you're doing. We need you in different kind of fashion styles, and we need it localized, like in Perth, in Tasmania, in Melbourne. It's like and then with an agreement to work together. Now, it would be so much better if the government funded these little kind of community. It's not going to happen.
I'm doing everything I can, Carl, to promote ourselves.
You're doing a great job. But the other thing is you have a philosophical thing where art's at the centre.
Yes.
Food and community. Okay. One of the things I love about art is that it's truly international. Like if I don't... Like, I work in multiculturalism. Yes. Am I the most culturally competent in every religion, in every country in Africa, in every single language? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But they don't throw me out the door because, I don't know, they seem to feel that I'm sincere.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm trustworthy.
Yeah.
And that is my international language. Right? And I go in and I think, I'm not exactly sure what I can eat or not. Did I say that wrong? I really want to be here, don't throw me out. I kind of go in and they... are really understanding when they know that you're sincere.
Yeah.
And I just think people don't realise that sincerity is the ultimate Star Trek universal
100%.
translator.
One word that you said earlier when you first arrived was you said when you first arrived today, before we even started filming and stuff, the thing that I heard you say which made my heart sing, which is it's very authentic. And I said, that's the key. That's what people are looking for today. Because people are so sick and tired of the nonsense, right? And if we as artists can embrace that and say, let's now have the conversation with the wider community. We've been having the conversation, and I'm at fault for this too, just staying within our own arena because that's where we feel heard. But now I feel like with what's happening around the world, it is a time for artists to step up to the plate.
Yeah, I did too.
And outside of your own little communities and talk to mainstream. And this is what this is about. Like, as I said to you, we got a lot of pushback in the beginning of like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to talk to mainstream.
I was pushing back. What are we doing, Kelli?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Wasn't just you, though. I mean, a lot of art friends are saying, what are you doing? Are you selling out? Is that a bit of a sell? I said quite the opposite, actually. Don't you think it's time that we actually started talking to mainstream and having the conversation?
I wanted to be able to talk without people going, oh, you're far left. But I'm not left like at all. I'm just human.
Even from Malcolm, I got called. He said, "Oh, you're extreme far left now. Because you've gone from being right, growing up in liberal family, to being." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm centrist, slight left."
Yeah.
Sorry, no. He's gone the opposite. He was started off as extreme left, and he's now gone centrist, slight right.
Yeah.
Because of his situation in America.
I feel like I am. All shades in the sense that in
More
some
than
ways I'm quite a conservative person. But I did want to bring this in. I've got quite a lot of Carl's work, and I think we'll do a feature. It's a little piece of Perth history because it was at
Keith and Lottie,
and it was called Sedition and Other Bedtime Stories. Which shows you do have a political bent in your work. I just wanted to read a little bit of Carl's exhibition. Keith was an amazing little Perth history gallery. To take on explaining Australia's 2005 anti-terrorism legislation to children. Monochromatic drawings and paintings using graphic novels and 18th century French figures, Indian deities, medical illustrations and quantum mathematics. It spoke to me, every piece. I could have actually gone home with every piece from that exhibition.
Well, thank you.
I think some other people put dots on there before I got to it.
Oh, yeah.
That's multi-layered.
Oh, it's
And that was inspired by children, actually, because my nephew and niece, that I was doing a lot of babysitting back then, and 8 and 12, they would have been, my nephew. My nephew might have been 11 and 12, my niece would have been 8. 4-year difference between them,
And that wasn't Keith and Lottie.
well, but they were asking some really basic questions. Why are everyone so strung out? Why are everyone so stressed about this? I mean, and I'd be going, well, it's kind of like, that kind of made that beginning. And I've kept that concept in a lot of my, what people think is political work. I've actually gone, well, would my mother understand this? Would kids understand it? Could I walk into a school of like 8-year-olds and maybe tell them in simple language why this makes me feel this way?
Yeah.
And then show them a picture and go, things falling out of the sky, but that's kind of how my heart feels. And when I look at that and people wanting to go to war, well, my heart's falling down like that little animal there. And you don't need to bring this high level of geopolitical bullshit.
Story behind this.
Well, I was using quantum physics was, that would have been
little bit of.
that was a transitional one. Yeah, that was
I
kind
saw
of
the chicken and the egg. Little. What's it all about?
Yeah.
What's the ultimate
What
question?
came first?
Which came first, the chicken or the
So
egg?
that wasn't like, I think that one was an early idea where I
Yes,
started,
that's
I did
yeah.
stuff about that sedition of the bedtime story, and then I had a few that crossed into the next one, which became We'll Always Have Paris. Bent Tales from the Subatomic, and that was all about quantum stories. This idea of quantum physics and the many worlds theory from Oxford, and this idea of really how we tell stories, whether it's political stories or personal stories, they tend to follow a fairly, Aristotelian kind of narrative, what do you call it, backwards, forwards. It kind of flows in a very timeline of like you're going to somewhere. And I think in quantum physics, well, we all know it's like reality can begin and end everywhere.
Science is caught up.
Yeah.
But science is caught up after debunking it for so many years.
That actually the future is determining the past, not the other way around.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things like that, right?
Well,
and yeah.
I thought that because
So
I'm a big dreamer and like.
So we're telling stories.
Exactly.
So when you were first doing, what year did you start exploring the idea of quantum, and how did that come into your artwork?
Probably from 2006. Probably I did finish that thing on the counter-terrorism thing, and then
I've got the Schrodinger's cat.
I mean, Schrödinger gave the cat dead or alive. It's a famous thought experiment.
Yeah.
Einstein used to do them. A lot of the early physicists, quantum physicists.
What was that from? What exhibition? I think
that came after. So it was Sedition, and then I had We'll Always Have Paris, and they were
from.
They were both at Keith and Lottie's. So they were both at Keith and Lottie.
How do I know the name Keith and Lottie?
They were.
They're kind of like spray aerosol.
They sold cans basically.
It was the street art thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
So I was hanging out with the street artists.
Oh,
beautiful.
Yes, I was hanging out with the street artists. And the back then it was like the police were really crashing down on them, and I just thought I've got to go out with them at night. And a couple of them took me out at night, and it was like it's all very illegal. They were very nice, welcoming me in because they knew I was like a canvas artist, and they're a street outdoorsy artist. And I wanted to understand what was going on, and they really, and I hung out at the parties. I must have been like 39, 40 or something. And but they were just really, I mean, they're all pretty young people, and they just really welcomed me in. It's like an ethnicity, really. It's like an ethnic community of. And they and they also
you do
showed
get
me
pockets of that in Perth, which is lovely.
Which is great.
Was that their real names? They were brilliant.
No, I mean they weren't called.
No, I'm just.
I don't know. I somehow I know their names. So.
She's actually moved to the.
They've still got the shop.
They've still got the shop, but it's all the street art stuff, and they don't do the gallery, which is fun.
They should open a gallery again because they did a
Look,
great job.
like getting back to that question, what it's like in Perth as an artist, there's not enough commercial galleries, and the ones that are,
They're all popping up again though.
yeah.
But you know, okay,
It's quite brilliant. What's
I don't
happening.
know. Sometimes I think it needs to go the opposite way a little bit, where it goes back to the control of the artist. And we have to remember that the streets are our galleries. We can't. I don't think people or artists in Perth recognise that enough.
No, they don't.
Like the Nine Dragons Head way, their philosophy is when you ride, even if it's for a Biennale, come with no ideas, come with your backpack, an empty backpack. And when you land, you've got 2 weeks to put something together, right? And
That's good for you as an artist.
Well, yeah, but at first it can be quite frightening. Be an
Yeah.
alien, you want me to not think about it until I'm on the ground and
yeah.
I've got only 2 weeks to put something together. But honestly, the best work comes out of that.
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't love it because we crap
We're frightened.
ourselves.
We're frightened.
But and you go, I always go, that was so stressful. I never want to do it like that.
And then
you're doing it again and
Because
again
then
and
it's the
again.
best work.
Yeah,
Best
because
work.
and every time you do it, just like I keep getting that it's always there. It's always there's phonies who just need a publicist and they need editors and they need to be protected all the time before they open their bloody mouth.
Yeah,
right?
no, I forget that.
But that's when you really test yourself.
Yeah.
You throw yourself in again and again and again, and you just produce,
Yeah.
and you can come up with something new every single time, and that's when you know you've still got it. Like you're real.
Yes.
And what we need to do is we need to teach our audiences that that's what a real art.
Yeah.
That's what real art is, and that's what a real artist is.
Yeah.
It isn't
Everyone in Perth, all you artists, get back on the fucking street. That's where the real art happens.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing with Carl's work is he's not afraid to experiment. He's not afraid to bring new ideas in, and really, I think you are studied as well. I think in the sense that you really
I mean,
think about what you're doing, but you're also immersive, and you're a good combination there.
yeah. I mean, when I say you kind of practice and study things, it's like but not with anything in particular in mind. Just because you want to understand it better, and that's when you jump in and go, "You want me to what?" And then all the stuff that you've been doing, it shows that you've spent a lifetime learning and studying and talking to a wide range of people.
How old you are?
Yes, my birthday's coming up. I'll be 59. Whether someone is young and starting out, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Whether you've been doing it for a long time, we're not all talking to each other generationally.
Between the baby boomers and the millennials.
Yeah, I'm so supportive of young people.
Yeah, me too.
I am. I'm not trying to. We're not trying to control them.
Oh my God,
and they're
sorry,
so jealous of anything, and they just want to hang on to everything they got, and they don't want to make room for new people. And I totally get young people there. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The institutionalizing.
You see that when the baby boomers are still Come on.
Yeah,
We got it.
But then there's a lot of us who are kind of
go somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people of different ages who aren't like that. And when we are wanting to interject and go in and go, it's more like if they can think of it as really well-intentioned, horrible parents, and I know it's awful, but like we don't want you to stuff up, we don't want you to burn out, we don't want you to fall into the same traps we did.
Yeah.
Please see the difference between the kind of psycho-ego kind of Biden syndrome that won't let go, and see all the people who are like, yeah, they're annoying, my parents are annoying, but I know they love me.
Look,
I kind of things like they're real. Shut
But I think they always
know
do
they
the
love me.
community as such an important part of the community.
Yeah.
But if they're still focused on their own story, then they're not actually giving any voice back to the youth coming through.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's gone out of kilter since the baby boomer generation. you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you've got the Gen X, which is the transitional in between.
The funny...
And they were like, I don't know. Yeah. A bit of an identity crisis. Am I this or am I that? And okay, I'm going to stay in the middle somewhere because I don't really know which way to swing.
Look, being in that generation, it's important to graciously accept where you are at your... I'm not going to say age, but at your
Stage.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think we have to necessarily... I think some of us are trying to stay where we were or capture a moment in time and not go. And it's not about what we wear. And I think no one gives a toss about that.
No.
But it's okay to embrace that wisdom, and there's a lot of wisdom that comes from realising that you have spent a lot of your life with a mask on your face that was not you. And I suppose the difficult thing for younger people is to accept that we're not trying to be horrible to you, but We want you to get your mask off or participate in the creation of your mask so that when you have to rip it off, it's not like you're going to rip off your face.
No, that's it.
Because that's how hard it is for us to have had to discover ourselves, and we don't want it to be like that for you. We don't want it to be like that for you. If you've gone through a difficult time, if you're a decent person, you're left with this feeling of not wanting other people to go through it. You ask me, why am I vocal? Why am I vocal about AUKUS? Why am I vocal about what I see, the racism in government and the far right? I don't want people to go through the kind of stuff I've had to go through, like growing up during the AIDS crisis and the violence from police because I'm queer, or all of those things.
Marginalisation,
exactly.
Of you just for being
the othering,
exactly.
we were talking
something
about
that you
last week, weren't you?
actually can't change. The bits that you can't change and being demonised or...
So if we survive it, it is our job. It is our job to make sure the younger people don't cop that crap.
And in Australia, unfortunately, as you were saying last week, we're still very much in that place with all that thing, always being in the othering mode. It's everybody else's issue.
That's right, and that's the easy
story.
stance.
It's like, no, actually, we're all part of the
very
story.
Common. We're all part of the story. We're all going through the same thing. It's just the window dressing is different. But it's very similar.
Yeah.
Well,
when you break it down.
Yeah.
When you break it down.
Well,
the most simple ways. I don't know.
I've worked on the other side of the arts where I've had to get grants and I've had to get money in, and I've had to toe the line. But I know that I lost my soul in the process.
I know I've worked for government.
And I have reclaimed it, but that's only. It'd be interesting because I'm not in the arts.
So maybe there's a new way.
Industry.
I haven't seen myself in the arts.
I allowed myself to go to the margins.
I think that's okay.
Just enjoy it from the sidelines. And I still dip my toe, and I absolutely love every interaction that I've had. It's actually last week. I'm going to go into the personal, but last week I have that beautiful moment between drifting into sleep, where the thoughts that come to you are very powerful. And I had this
the veil in the veil ring,
and I had this amazing image of my primary school art teacher, Miss Callan, and my primary school guitar teacher, Mr. Abro. And their faces went like that, and I do you know who your math teacher was? Yeah, Mr. Ashton.
Oh, you do too. I was like, oh, you do.
Mr. Ashton was my favourite. Well, no, I don't actually. I just
thought it was interesting that the two teachers that you mentioned were guitar teacher and art teacher.
And they were beautiful. I think they were actually. I think that Mr. Abro was Miss Callahan's brother-in-law. That's just in my imaginary world, and that can be confirmed. But what is so beautiful in reality, I'm not sure. But they happen to just live behind me. Miss Callahan's house lived adjoining our place, and Mr. Abro, he wasn't always there, but he lived on the corner house, just around the corner, like about 4 houses away. So in that magic moment, I just thought, for me, arts opened my whole world up, and they were some of the people, because I had a lot of art. I had music and a lot of art, but maybe visual arts not so much. But I had my beautiful auntie is a visual artist. She still is, but she kind of lived away at that point. So she lived up north, and she had a life. But it was just that moment where I just thought, they just opened up my world. They really did, and that was, to me, I suppose, in some ways, I just recognised how important, how significant, how empowering art was. Visual arts, music, I guess it made me into who I am in a way, but it also gave me a voice. It absolutely gave me a voice.
And that's it. That's it in a nutshell, Geraldine.
Yeah.
That's
and I was a sporty kid, and I was into science, and I loved maths.
Where there's no voice.
And I wasn't the playground kid. I was the studious kid that was a little bit ostracised on the bench, reading a book and all that. I went and played and interacted, but I never quite connected. I went and played the knuckle bones and square ball, whatever. Well, that's right, but for me, being on the sidelines and immersing myself in some way was really my whole world of imagination was.
But I think what you're talking about is that thing, you're talking about a state of mind which is really amazing for audiences to be able to do, because as an artist, you're only as good as your audience. Because if they don't, if their ability to see really clever stuff is kind of down here. Remember I talked about, we're so clever in Australia, we've gone up 10%. And so you're not pitching your best stuff. They don't get your best ideas. And so you tend to drop your performance, because why? They're going to come, they're not going to get me anyway. So you don't exercise that muscle. I mean, that's why I talk to people overseas, because they're more demanding of me. They're people who work at a very high level, and when I mean, sometimes stuff falls flat. Yeah. And you didn't get it. Or it's the translation between, it tends to be England and America. I mean, we're all speaking English, but it's different.
Yeah.
And I have to, they didn't get it. Why? Because it means different things here. So I have to work a little bit harder. But once we get over that, they get the idea. But I do have to work, and they allow me to do that without putting me down or shutting me up.
That's it.
And in Australia, we're so good at the arts, the creative industries, the peak bodies.
Tall poppies.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You can't even be a tall poppy. They won't even let you. They won't even let the seed grow. How can you have to be a seed to grow to a poppy to cut down. So I think there's an awful lot of stunted poppies out there.
Well, often it's when you go overseas.
Well,
and you come back. We didn't really have a proper show here until we got back from overseas, and then Kelli Garrett, come and do a show here. So I get what you're saying.
But even when they do, it's like their perception of what their expectation is someone who did stuff overseas.
Yes. Yeah.
And you don't even want them to think about that. Would you just read the blurb?
Yeah.
And then would you just either watch the performance and experience it, or look at the painting and experience it? Yeah. Instead of going, this is who you are, you got a photo, you made it overseas, or people listen to you overseas, and that's why they're there. I mean, I think we have a word for that. It's like a superficial social climber. We need to name that, not call it just mediocrity or Australian mediocrity, but it's like these are the most superficial things in a society you can do. Turn up, be sincere, be genuine, and even if you don't quite get it, just try. As a performer, as an artist, you don't, even if they don't get it, if they've come in and they're willing to try and they get some of it,
that's it.
It's when they try, you feel warm towards that audience member. And you don't care whether they don't get every single bit. They try to understand, or they try and go deeper into what you're doing, and then you feel such a sense of appreciation. And it does matter all the years that you've put into the people, the mistakes you've made, the research you've done, the experimentation. It does matter because they got it, and then they do what you do. It's like you open my mind.
I just went into that moment.
Yeah, I know.
I was back in primary school too.
I don't want to go to primary school.
The veil was lifted again.
The veil lifted. Well, I was given some incredible opportunities as a kid. When I think about it, you know, one of them was, thank you, Miss Callahan. I don't think she'd be. I think she's gone. She was getting on. And
she was probably you.
I had another school teacher that I liked as well, but I didn't study.
I want to know what your favourite piece of work is.
I did a portrait of Obama when he first got elected. It's huge, and I still look at it and go, who the fuck did that? It's mixing painting with stencil. It's got layer upon layer of meaning and technique. I love it. I just did a 3-canvas triptych about Gaza. It was so horrible. The first one is the bomb and everything. The second one is this whole thing of the supernatural, the spiritual mythology that's running through this war, connects all religions and they're connected. People in Australia don't want to hear this. It's really important to look at what we bring culturally, and very superstitious people. And that's actually motivating a lot of our decisions. I've talked to a lot of, they all are superstitious. When you join the military and go into combat, the first thing that gets refreshed is your basic superstition from whatever culture you come from. That actually becomes your driving. The painting is about those subconscious, mythical that we. AUKUS painting was about that. This Gaza thing is about that. Collateral journal. In November last year, they selected me to be their artist. They also allowed me to talk about the paintings and this rational, geopolitical, with this religious, mythological, subconscious trauma running parallel. It's a story about the underworld and the overworld. What we read about is above the horizon, and what's not going on is beneath the horizon. It's a painting that's trying to capture this war and this era and this time in a rational sense, but also in a very subconscious and a very rational way.
How did you end up in...
I was working in the community sector and private publishing, and then around 2004 took a job in government. I wasn't working in policy, but I was dealing with policy, and I was doing community education. I got exposed to that, and I worked in culture and the arts for 2 years as a researcher. In 2014, I applied for a job in Melbourne at the Ethnic Communities Council. I applied for a senior policy officer role. I ended up in Melbourne. Cohesion, counter-terrorism wave. When I say policies, that people are going on about social cohesion, and they criticise it, the securitisation of ethnic communities and control. The reason why I worked in it was because there was no other way to fight back against that except to work within the system. I did a secondment Premier in Cabinet here in WA, and they started to move backwards. Dan Andrews.
I feel like Perth's moving backwards at the moment. Last couple of years.
Well, there isn't any opposition.
No, that's it.
I'm not a liberal supporter of that, but at the same time, I understand that there needs to be an equal balance in the political structure. There needs to be a bit of pushback. So, the community advocate, you can't advocate because the government has complete control and authority. So you can't leverage because you've got nothing to leverage with.
Right.
You can't go to the opposition. And they can't get their shit together.
This is why we need a legitimate opposition.
You need a we need a legitimate opposition, and we have to. I'm not saying you personally have to go vote for the Liberal Party, but unfortunately, unless we get something equal, this government is not. Whether it's a state Labor government or a federal Labor government, they're not doing the right things. They're not doing the right things. They're taking us into AUKUS. We're invisible. We don't have any say in government in major decisions, whether it's our climate, whether it's business and resources, whether it's military and war.
What can we do to push back on that? What can we do as artists here in Western Australia? Now's the time to fight, right?
We need to move away from protest. This sounds weird. This sounds weird. The problem is, and this is what I found, because I was working in it, I got to dig a lot deeper into it. And it's when you dig deeper into it that you find the real levers.
Right.
And also that you can find, you can structure your argument in such a way that you can communicate with other Australians. Because you don't understand, when you go as an artist, you can't forget your audience. Now, unfortunately, when we go into it with all our feelings and our passion, we forget about our audience. And it becomes about our ego.
Okay. Yeah.
We have to park our ego. This is what you learn in policy. It was hard for me to learn, but now I'm really good at it, which is I go into any situation, any topic, any situation, any community, I have to park who I am. I bring who I am, but I have to park it. I can't allow it to stop listening and to not be able to pick up on important points. It stops me doing my job. If I go in with my own biases all the time, I can't do good policy. But you can keep your home shoes on.
Yeah, but it's in there. It's there. It's in your belly. It's not gone. But you have to be presentable so that you can be heard. Because often, like how you were talking about before, you're saying, often you feel unseen or unheard in the artist arena. A lot of that is to do with what you're talking about. Most artists are too in your face before you get a chance to actually begin the conversation. And what I think is required in those situations, if you walk into a political arena of some kind, right, then you actually have to be a bit more measured. Then you do have to actually go in not with the rage that you might be feeling, right? And I get that artists, that's street stuff. Do it in the street, that's where it's powerful. But if you're walking into a formal situation, which government is in many ways, then I think you can carry all that stuff with you.
I've got to get them to not leave the room and to be able to get to that point where we can all, preferably not me, I need to guide them to one of them says it. And then they'll all look at their peer and go, yeah. My job isn't to put words in their mouth. My job is to see it, but I can never name it because I'm not part of the group. I'm not transgender. I'm not a transgender woman. I'm not a woman. I can't say what it's like to have my uterus insulted. I can't do this. I can't. my job in policy is to see it and guide the conversation to, did you say something? Do you want to say something?
Which is a restorative process.
It's got to come from them.
Yeah, and this is where we see more extreme groups coming to the fore. We had that extremely ugly scene, line of men in black outside New South Wales.
Which should never have happened, but there you go.
Should not have happened.
No.
But you could see, did anyone smile in that line? They're not happy.
They're not happy.
They're not happy campers. And they're not
happy.
happy for a reason. And I don't know that I'm
No, and you can say the same for the whole Liberal Party right now. They're radiating such dark misery.
Disenfranchised from their own community.
Because they're looking for their new identity.
They're looking for a saviour, they're looking for identity, they're looking, but they've got a lot of hurt. They don't know how to process that hurt. They think they can use policy, public policy, and they go to the media, a bit like the Better Together conference that went south.
Where you get the real conversation that he can then take with him to wherever he's going when he's in a government situation. I think the whole world is changing government-wise at the moment. There's this everybody's looking for a new style of governing because this fight between autocracy and democracy didn't happen overnight. It's been sneaking up for 30, 40 years. And I don't think either is the right answer, to be completely honest. And I'm often asking questions, what does new governing look like in the future for us? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Don't think you can ignore how artificial intelligence is going to play a major role. And my concern about AUKUS is tied into this. And
because Peter Thiel provides the tech for...
Because of Pillar 2.
Yeah.
Pillar 2. Pillar 1.
Or Peter Thiel?
Pillar 1, submarines.
Yeah.
And it was never about submarines. It was about Pillar 2, I think. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But the big thing that people realise is that the whole AI, quantum physics, the autonomous weaponry, that's the most vulnerable area. And we've seen with what's happening in Kyiv how drone technology and AI is being used, and in Gaza.
The Ukrainians have done
and the idea that you can talk about this in geopolitical terms of countries and nation states as actors, it's ridiculous. Because once those life and death things that used to be controlled by governments are autonomous, they can be hacked. And governments now do much business with organised criminal activity. It's the line between organised crime and corporations, some people call that the same thing, and government is blurred. There's a lot of contracting going on between them. Who is in charge anymore?
That's right.
And I just get worried about with AUKUS that Peter Thiel is involved.
I think everyone...
but he has a particular interest
in the second one.
New Zealand and Australia, right? And he's been infiltrating since 2003. He got his citizenship in New Zealand in 2011 and hadn't spent the 1,300 days required of living there. He's so kind of focused on, for some reason, Western Australia. He's got some crazy conspiracy theories going on. And he's providing the tech for the Virginia nuclear submarines that we are purchasing. And he doesn't have very healthy ideas about how he sees the world should be playing out.
I just think moving forward, it's just going to be very hard to use those paradigms.
Moving forward, with all of that we know now, and the system collapsing as we know it, and now AI coming into it, what kind of governing do you think is possible?
I don't think it'll be as rational as we think, what you call empirical rationalism.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I think it's really important. Like, I think my next phase of work, I decided to really foreground spiritual and religious ideas have always been a part of all my things, and I've kind of distilled it down now, and I'm actually focusing on what is religious art. I'm looking at it and I'm exploring it within the context of the new technologies, the artificial intelligence and robotics, and what that means in terms of where we see ourselves and when we see our spiritual. Because with the spiritual comes all that superstitious. I actually think a future government will be quite religiously inspired.
Really?
I think it will be in a language of mythology.
Kind of is already.
Going back
Kind of is. If you look at gaming technology and the culture and everything, and so I think policy people are completely unprepared for that, because that's all in culture.
And governments.
You asked me, what is the role of artists? I think especially young artists, they young and old together, because you've got young artists who really not only are technologically aware, but have come to adulthood at a time where the gaming technology has integrated so much religious ideas and mythological ideas. That's why with the far right, they look at Norse mythology associated with the far right. But these are all woven into technology and advertising, games and everything. and I think as technology takes control, it's going to come with all of this culture. And so I think when we look at what we will consider to be a legitimate government will be something we today may think is a bit crazy. It won't necessarily be the Handmaid's Tale. That's one of many different little fantasies and mythologies. I think that there are people who will. I think that certain old school geographical blocks. I think the trading blocks that we're talking about, we're seeing with the tariffs, and I think we're seeing online communities start to create their own cultural economy, that we call it. So what we're going to see, I don't think governments will have any say in it. It's going to emerge from this world.
And they're going to have to deal with it.
So in terms of how we're able to be prepared, I think it's artists' job, especially younger artists, to develop backlogs of communication strategies for the rest of us. And I think they can learn from us as older artists because we're part of the people that they need to bring along. And also
we're also more adept. I say it. I feel like an artist. I don't do a lot of.
You are an artist.
I am an artist at heart.
I do think it's wise at this point in time to drop the word artist and say creators.
The creative, thank you.
Because we're across all platforms these days, aren't we?
And I think we've already talked about this. Is I think creatives go beyond boundaries.
Yes, and artists can be pigeonholed. The word artist alone can be pigeonholed.
If we were going to say to anyone working in government or working in any social order, let's say social order, and I think that's right, that we're going beyond our boundaries. Our normal boundaries are being stretched because there's no hard boundaries, and that's where perhaps AI is going to be. A lot of people fear it or embrace it, and you can't control it. Let's face it, because it is.
It's weird, isn't it? When the word first came out, everybody feared it and everybody loved it. Everybody feared it, everybody loved it. And there was that conversation that needed to be had. And at the end of the day, and you and I all said this many, many, many times, at the end of the day it comes down to intent, the individual and the collective intent. Money's not bad or evil. It's not bad or evil. The web's not bad or evil, but we tend to label it with that. But it is, we are the people who make it good or bad. We are,
that's right.
Both as individuals and then as a collective.
It's a perception, isn't it?
Yeah, but how we can embed ourselves into it, it needs to be done cooperatively. That's what I'm saying.
There's disenfranchisement and marginalisation of people.
We're also getting hijacked by the far left. We have a legitimate thing. When you're trying to encourage artists to do this, we have to make sure that when we do our creative brief,
listening,
we make sure that we are not a Trojan horse and manipulated, weaponized. We can't allow our creativity to be weaponized.
No.
There will be times when we can't help it, but we have to make it as tight as we can to prevent it, more people being able to do it, or as quickly. You ask me, how do you do it? That's how you do it. You can't do an open call. You have to give them instruction, make sure this is how your work is going to be used. They'll say you're anti-American, you hate this, you hate that. You don't.
No.
But let's be clear, then put it into your creative brief at the beginning. We don't hate anyone.
No, that's it.
We want peace. We don't think you should be here, but we want you to be happy somewhere else.
But the thought of the concern is not, it's more that there's no guardrails on this project. As in, they can come and go. There's no deal in it for Australia. There really is no deal in it. Both UK and America come and go without necessity of any security
they're already
measures.
Doing that. They're already doing it to a degree. But not to the extent.
They're not living here. There's a difference. I lived in Exmouth with the American base was there, and I was 18. And then that's how I ended up going to America. At the age of 18. And then I came back and we got these jobs up at Exmouth. We were going to do a working holiday around Australia, as all good Aussie people do when they finish school. And we ended up the first job we got was in Exmouth. And again, I dated an American boy there, sort of thing from off the base. So I got to see the impact of that on a local town, on a small town, which was Exmouth at the time. And I also got to see the impact post when the base pretty much, for the most part, has shut down. But now that's going to be a slow boat about 10 minutes from our Fremantle shore. And so my question is, how does that look for the greater community? Not so much worried about the cultural kind of interaction, although, that's probably going to be there too. It's more, it's a nuclear submarine, guys. Can you just wake up a little bit?
Yeah.
And nuclear powered. Yeah, nuclear powered, but it's still, you blow it up, who do you...
Well,
that's us.
I think people have brought in the environmental concerns about nuclear waste, and I think the public get that and they're concerned.
Yeah.
So do you understand? Like, there are some things which the public get and they understand, and it's about working with what the public understand. And you're saying, what can artists do? They can build on what the public understands and push it 5-10% at a time, and maybe in the next incremental. Yeah. Maybe not like forever incremental, but
you've got to start somewhere.
You've got to start somewhere.
And if you want people to hear you, you've got to do it. It's the same. I talk about the healing from trauma does not happen overnight.
No.
It's an incremental little process at a time. And if you ask someone to take bigger bites than that, they will crash and burn.
Yeah. I think it's very important that if you're asking artists to get involved in supporting an education about consent, like my painting that I talked about in London, I used AUKUS as the framework, and I try to bring up this issue of consent. Now, that's what the Australian public and that's what the WA public need to do. And that's what artists can help them do. Like, you don't have to go into... I don't approve of full-on anti-Americanism, no.
No.
Because I have family there, I have friends there, I have spiritual communities that I respect.
I love the Americans.
There's a lot of people in America who oppose the collapse of certain institutions, which worked for so long. There are a lot of good people in America. That's what I'm saying. You get the far extreme left or right, and they just stereotype entire countries and races and everything, because black and white is really easy.
And I do think there's an extreme polarization at the moment, and so but often that's
we
the
need
case.
to be aware
that
what
before it starts to coming back.
And what the conversation that needs to be had. It's about, if you're going to do that. Really articulate how the extremes in both left and right may weaponize what I'm trying to say, that's very powerful incrementalism, because it's a video they can I know a friend, watch the video. So they may have wanted to do it and you've given them ideas. Like, if you want to do this, be really clear that you're not anti-American and you're not anti-military. However, because that there's a lot of people in the military who really don't want to do this, and you're very sympathetic to them.
And they need permission.
And their families,
We've got.
Oh, you want to come? You want to go out?
No.
Oh, no, you don't. You want to be sitting up.
No, he's being really attentive. Maybe.
Okay.
So first of all, I just want to thank Geraldine for introducing us to Carl. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you
Sometimes I love this conversation from beginning to end.
Enjoyable.
It's just been amazing. Thank you for the amazing.
I think Gizmo enjoyed
platter that you brought to the table. Gizmo has approved.
You have approved. I'm glad, Giz.
Now, we always sign off. How do we sign off, Geraldine? We always sign off.
And we hope everybody
remember, so no matter what, the first thing is you got to laugh.
You do have to laugh.
You have to laugh.
We have plenty of laughs.
Yeah, that's true.
And
you have to then love ferociously.
Yes.
In the kindest possible way. And then you just gotta fucking breathe.
So
I'm with you.
And that's laugh, and breathe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You, yeah.
And Geraldine, thank you so much for introducing.
Yes,
more
than a
pleasure.
I look forward to seeing your other podcasts. Yeah.
Well, you will be getting you back.
Yeah.
Even if I'm going to drag you by the tails.
Thank you.
I'll be coming to Great Britain because I've really, really, really,
seriously,
really enjoyed this conversation.